So we have our first input. Let's go ahead and knock out the additional ones. I'm going to click on the Web Form tab again. And for our new component name, we're going to go ahead and do email here. We did name, now we'll do email. And as the type, let's go ahead and pick email. We'll make this mandatory as well. And let's go ahead and click add. The inputs are going to be very similar here. We have our label, field key, default value, user email as default. This is similar to pre-filling the form in our last example, but instead this would use the user email if they were logged in. We want to leave this blank for now. A description, some validation options, and display options as well. Let's go ahead and click submit. Everything else is pretty much the same as the text field. Now let's take a look one more time at our form. Now we have our name and our email inputs. Awesome. Okay, let's go ahead and go back to the web form and do the rest. Our next input is experience level. So let's go ahead and add experience level. For the input, let's go ahead and use select options. We'll make this mandatory as well. Let's click add. Okay, let's go ahead and take this opportunity to look at the field key. Now you'll run into things called keys or machine names or machine labels throughout Drupal, and I just wanted to explain briefly what they are. The idea behind a machine name is that we need a unique identifier for a piece of content or piece of data that's going to be used elsewhere. That unique identifier comes out in a variety of ways, a lot of which can't use the typical naming conventions that we'd use for, say, a label or a name. There can't be spaces, and capital letters aren't typically going to work well. So the machine name consists of alphanumeric characters, which means anything from A to Z, as long as they're lowercase, as well as 0 to 9. In addition to these, you can use underscores to separate components. So when you look at this field key that we're using for the input for web form, it converts experience level all to lowercase and adds an underscore where the space was. So it says experience underscore level. We'll talk more about machine names later. The other item on this page that I said we'd come back to is this token values here. Now you'll also hear the word token used throughout Drupal quite a bit. And the idea of a token is that we put a placeholder inside of a bit of text, and that placeholder gets replaced with a dynamic value. Let's go ahead and expand this box and take a look at what's inside. So you see here we have basic values and special variables. Each one of these items begins with a percentage sign and then some text. So this here is a placeholder for a username. So for example, if we copied this and we placed it in the default value right here, whenever this input got loaded, it would insert the username of the currently logged in user. As you see, we can also use user email, the user's current IP address, the site, which is the site name, and the current date. And then there's also some additional variables we can use. Tokens are extremely useful, and we'll talk more about them later as we integrate them with other components of our site. But the basic idea is that they're placeholders inside of text that get replaced with dynamic text later on.